that birth. Since the first birth had gone so well, I thought this is going to be fine. I thought it's my last birth. I'm not going to do this again. So I'm going to really try to enjoy it. And like, I made all these like little like inspirational like sayings and hung them up everywhere around the birthing pool, you know? And then when the birth actually happened, I wanted to tear all those signs down. You know, I was like, screw this. Like, I hate everything. I just want to be about husband. She was the hardest birth out of the 4, actually, because she kind of got stuck, not stuck in me, but like, I think there was like a cervical lip problem. Like my cervix had opened to 10, but like the lip of the cervix was still kind of on her head, and it made it difficult for me to get her out. And I remember being really angry at my midwife during the birth because she kept telling me like, we need to change your position. You need to get out of the pool. You need to try, they really wanted me to put my leg up onto like a chair and try to get this lip to like rescind. But I didn't know why. And I was like, I'm the one giving birth. You should let me like feel, you know, move how I want to move and put myself into the positions that I want to do, because I'm like, my body has this intuition or whatever. And she's like, no, you need to put your leg up on the chair. Do it, please. But it was the right thing. That was eventually how finally she like descended. It turned out also the cord was around her neck. So I think that also didn't help, because she was, you know, she had this cord like holding her back a little bit too. So,
but her head was down?
Yeah, her head was down, yeah. So when she came out, I was in the pool, and again...
You could see when she was out in the pool in the water, you could see the cord around her neck, or was it already out?
No, I think when she started to crown, or like when her head came out, my midwife saw, or like maybe she felt the cord. And so she reached down, and I think I was in the pool kind of on my back, right? So she reached down and she unhooked the cord and took it off the baby's head, which pulled on the placenta, which was still inside of me. And that like really hurt. And I just like, I like barked at my midwife at that point. I was like, don't do that. And she's like, oh, sorry, you know, but like she needed to. That was really, she had to do that.
Yeah.
And it was good she did that. But I just remember like this sharp pain. And it's just so funny because I've been, you know, having contractions this whole time, and it was really painful the whole time. And I was able to like not yell at anyone until I got to that moment, and it's like the end, and then I'm like, don't do that.
You said that you wanted to go to hospital at one point.
During the second birth? Yeah, I mean...
Because it was taking longer and more painful?
It was longer and more painful. Oh yeah, like the other thing with that too is because I was so excited about this birth, because I was like, I'm going to have this like perfect birth at home finally, and it's going to be all like hearts and rainbows. I was excited for it. So when I first had my first contractions, I was like, yes, it's here, we're going. And those contractions went through like the first night, and then they kind of stopped by the morning. And so I had contractions all through the night. And then the next day I was completely like tired because I'd stayed up all night hoping that this was like birthing time, and it wasn't. And then the contractions stopped completely for the next day. And I was like, oh no, like now I have to get through a whole day, and I've got my older child I have to take care of because she wasn't in keto yet. Like, how am I going to like do this, you know? And then the next night came, and then I finally like actually went into labor that night. But so I think it was kind of this, it felt like the birth was so long because I'd had that one first night where I thought I was going into labor and I had a bunch of contractions, but it was really more like pre-labor, I guess. And I was like, oh, should I call my doula? And so, yeah, so with this birth, I had hired the same doula, but they went to the US. And then I got the backup doula, who was also really, really lovely. She's this girl from somewhere, she's Spanish speaking, like I think she's from South America. And she was really fantastic as well. But I didn't want to call her in unless I really knew. But the original doula was in the US. And so I just FaceTimed her and said, look, I feel like it might be contractions, but you know, I don't know. Basically had 2 doulas. Then in the end, I had one for the support for the first night. And then the next night at 8 p.m., Carolina came over, and then we had the birth. So yeah. So, but for the birth itself, you had only one person there, one midwife, or 2? I had the doula, Carolina, and I had Vanessa, the midwife. So and Vanessa brings like a backup midwife for the actual like moment of birth. So there were 3 people. Yeah, I think there must have been 3, yeah.
Okay. And they were all helping you out during birth?
No, Vanessa was the one helping me. Carolina was providing like emotional support. And then the third midwife was only there for like documentation. So she kind of like sat in a corner and she wouldn't like look at me. It was really weird. She was like, just like writing whatever Vanessa said down.
Okay.
But like I look at her and she's
just
like...
in case for the record, like just
Yeah.
in case if something happens, you to have a record of things.
Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They want to have that backup midwife
Because
there.
you don't have anything like that in hospitals.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay. So how did the breastfeeding go this time?
The breastfeeding was a lot better this time. I don't remember having any problems. I remember...
Because you were still breastfeeding your first child, or?
So no, at that point with each pregnancy, my milk dried up, and each...
After how long?
Like, I don't know, week 14, 15, something like that.
After 14 weeks? So that's what, like...
Second trimesters, yeah.
Okay.
By the second trimester, each kid had like basically stopped breastfeeding at that point.
Yeah.
Plus, you know how your breasts get all like, it hurts in pregnancy to breastfeed. So I didn't really want her to keep on breastfeeding and then have her and the baby, you know, tandem feeding. So I thought, okay, well, we'll just, you know, I'll wean you now. And that worked out fine. She was old enough to like understand when I said boobies are empty. So yeah, when I gave birth to the second child, and then I told, I think we went on FaceTime like the next morning with Grandma and Grandpa, so my husband's parents, and I said, this is the last grandchild you're getting from us, like, so enjoy it, you know, because I'm not doing that ever again. And I think my mother-in-law said like, oh yeah, I remember saying that too. And then I had more children, but I was like, no, I'm really not going to do this anymore. I don't think I can go through another birth like that. Yeah, and then obviously I went ahead and did 2 more.
So the 2 more, how were they relatively faster? The labor, the whole contractions. Usually they say you just you pop the baby out.
Forward, they were a lot more like the first birth in that regard. They were pretty fast. My son, like, he was really big. He's got quite a big head even now. Like, his head doesn't fit into normal like hats for his age. He's just a really big head. So when he came out, like, it was definitely hard to push him out. He also was born 2 weeks after. So like I said before that you have to have a home birth before the 2 week after the due date, so before 42 weeks. And he was born on 41 plus 6. So he was in there. He didn't want to come out, it seems. And we were doing all sorts of stuff those last couple days. Like, I took the... what is it called? Like the midwife can give you this drink that tastes terrible. It's like, I don't know what it is, some sort of oil. But like, it's dangerous actually to take that.
Castor oil?
Yeah, castor oil. Yeah. She made me a castor oil cocktail and had me drink it. She did an enema on me. Like, that was actually worse than the birth. I would never do that again. She did
accelerate to make the birth happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
To try
natural ways of inducing.
Right, natural induction methods. Yeah. So we did all that, and that I guess worked. You know, I don't know. Maybe the baby would have come even without those things. But at that point, I was like, I really want to try to keep this birth at home. I really would rather not go to the hospital. So if we could do anything to keep me home, let's try it. So. So yeah, we did the castor oil. We did the enema. There might have been a few other things I don't remember, but. In the end, yeah, the baby, I went into labor that night at like 7 p.m. was when I first started noticing like, okay. And I think the night before I'd had like a little bit of pre-labor, but I'd learned from my second birth not to get excited. I was like, I'm going to wait till the last possible moment till it's like, I had this like theory, like you're not going to miss the birth. Like, you know, like you're going to be there for it. You'll notice when it's really going. So I was like, okay, my body will tell me when it's really time. So I'm just going to wait and like, try to sleep as much as I can and rest and whatever. So yeah, so it really got started at like 7 p.m. that night. And I was like, yes, okay, finally, like, because I had an induction scheduled for the next day at Maria Heimsuchung. The next morning at 9 a.m., I would have to go in and get induced. So that was the whole, like, you know, plan. Yeah. So I thought, this is my last chance, you know, this baby better come out tonight. So when the contractions really started getting going, like at 7, I thought, oh, thank goodness, like, here we go. And so, yeah, my oldest child, she was, I guess, 3 by then. Yeah, she was 3, almost 4. And she was spending the night at her keto friend's house, they live in the building right behind us. So, like, she was taken care of. Rosalie was 16 months old at that point, and so she was with us. And we decided to walk to Lidl, which is like, I don't know, not far from our house, maybe like a 5-minute walk. And so me and my husband and our 16-month-old, and she's on her little bike. She insisted on like biking all the way there. So we're walking super slow. And we get to Lidl, and I remember like, you know, a couple times near like the frozen food sections having to like stop and be like, okay, don't talk to me for a second. Okay, okay, all right, I'm good. Okay, let's and put more on our basket, you know. And I remember like getting to the checkout and paying with my card and being like, oh, I feel another one coming. Okay, give me the receipt. Come on, let's go, let's go. So I still have that receipt. It's in the baby book of my son, because I was like, this is what I was doing when I was in labor with you. I was checking out at Lidl, you know. It's really silly. But yeah, then I went home, and we got the doula there. We got the midwife. I think the midwife came first and then the doula came later. I don't remember now actually exactly. But yeah, and then my son was born at 11:55.
Okay.
So like 5 minutes before midnight. You know, and midnight would have been a new day where I would have legally had to be in the hospital.
Wow.
So he was born like at the last minute possible.
So you made it.
Yeah, well, Vanessa said, okay, it was clear you were in labor. I still would have delivered at home even if you came after midnight. But yeah, she's like, I wouldn't have been like, midnight, time to go to the hospital. But yeah, so then it was really nice to wake up the next morning and have like this baby in my arms and be able to call the hospital and be like, I don't need to come in for the induction. Baby's already here. And they're like, herzlichen Glückwunsch, you know. And so it was all, that went really well. Yeah. Yeah, and he was also a big baby, just like Rosalie. They were both like 40, 42, 43, 100 grams, both of them. So big babies. Difference for me is just the fact that like after you're done giving birth, you get to like crawl into your own bed and go to sleep. I mean, if you want to sleep. And that's such a huge difference to just automatically be in your space with people that you know and trust. With your own food, if you want to eat something, you don't have to like eat the hospital food. You don't have to wear a hospital gown. You don't have to share a room with like 3 other women. It was just so that was the best part. Like honestly, just being able to crawl into my own bed afterwards. Vanessa was super like she has this whole procedure for everything. So as soon as the baby's born, she makes you get out of the pool pretty quickly so you don't get too cold. And transfers you to like the couch or something until the placenta comes out, and then cuts the cord. And then she's like, all right, time to go to the bathroom and when you're ready. So we do a bathroom trip, and then she's like, okay, and we've prepared the bed for you. So they lay out all these like, you know, blood soaking pads because you've got a lot of the lochia still coming out, of course. So they prepare the bed, and then she and the other midwife like brought me to bed and like laid me down. And then I was like, okay. And she loves dressing babies. So she would then like dress the baby up and then hand me the baby. And I'm just like, this is just so nice to like lie in bed. And I've got my newborn right now. If I go to the hospital, it's a guaranteed break from taking care of my older children. Because then I don't have to do anything. Then I just lie there. I can press a button if I need anything, and they'll just bring it to me, and I can just breastfeed and lie there. And when you have a home birth and you have older children, you can't just do that. I mean, you can if you have other adults there, but you inevitably have like your toddler coming in and like bringing you a book and wanting to read it, or they want to play with like trains, or they want to play Uno or something, and like you're just constantly, you can't just like sleep and rest. And I remember like sitting there, and I'd have a newborn who had just been born and was completely, you know, sometimes like they sleep for like a day and a half almost. And you're like, this is my chance to try to catch up on all the sleep that I missed. And so you'd see like the baby sleeping, and you got your other like older children who are like, Mom, talk to us, play with us. And you're like, I just want to sleep like that one's doing. Why are you bugging me? But like we had really good support with the 4th baby. We hired this woman who basically as a babysitter, and she's an artist, so she's really flexible with how she can use her time. And so she just came over every day the first week, and then a little bit less frequently, but she kept on coming over and like just playing with the kids and like taking them out on little like adventures and to the playground and stuff. So that was super helpful to have that support after the 4th birth. And I made it my goal really on the 4th birth to just stay in bed and like for 3 weeks and not like try to stand up as little as possible. Try to just like bond and cuddle and breastfeed, you know, because I knew that like that time, I think with my first birth, those 3 weeks, I was like trying to get up and do as much as I could and like show that I was like bouncing back from the birth, and I don't have to like, there's nothing to recover from, everything's fine. And with my 4th birth, like I'd had enough experience to know like there's no need to get up and like run around and pretend that like you're completely fine. And you have this little newborn that's not going to be a newborn for more than a few months. So like, why not just like lie in bed and cuddle and breastfeed and like enjoy that time, you know? So yeah, so for those first couple weeks, like my husband and my our babysitter did a lot of the work with the older kids, and I just hung out with my fourth child.
Have you had any baby blues, or
oh yeah,
what did change?
Oh, I don't even know. Like, I don't think I've even allowed myself to like think about that so much. I think with the first baby, I was like, okay, I'm going to be on the lookout for like postnatal depression, and it should be pretty obvious if I'm depressed or not, you know? And I think, but then once you have the baby, you're so focused on like making sure the baby's okay and like taking care of baby and trying to like see how your relationship does when you have the new baby that you're not even really thinking about all of that. And then when you look back and you go, oh man, like I could have used more help with my mental health. I think I definitely have gone through like periods, like definitely baby blues. For me, that's really just like the week after the birth, where you kind of have like 2 days of high, and then the third day you kind of go into this like low after all the hormones of the birth kind of wear off, and you kind of just feel like you've been hit by a truck. But then after that is the interesting part, to see if you go through like this postnatal depression. And I've definitely struggled with that, but not in the way that I thought I would, if that makes sense. I've come to realize that a lot of what you feel after having kids, if you feel any of like postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, is just, it's not really you, it's just hormonal, you know? It's just like your hormones trying to balance themselves back out. And if you end up needing medication or help in that regard, it's not like a personal failure. It's just that you had birth, and it's normal to go through these fluctuations. And yeah, I think the thing I've struggled with a lot is just the fact that we have so many children that it makes it really hard to do anything, and you have to be really organized and plan a lot. I mean, just to come here on my own, I had to, you know, book it and make sure my husband was home and make sure the kids have whatever they need before I leave. To leave the house, if I'm the only adult home, just to get to the grocery store, I have to like get 4 kids dressed and out the door. And that takes a lot of mental energy just to leave the house to go to the store, you know? So I think that's the part that I've struggled the most with mentally, is just like this loss of like, oh my God, I don't have any like personal freedom at the moment. I can't just like leave the house and go have a coffee somewhere if I want to, because I don't have that choice. I don't have that luxury at the moment. I can't just go. And I think that has made whatever depressive feelings I've had even worse, because it just feels like, oh, every day I wake up and I just have to do the same thing. I've got to feed these kids. I've got to clothe these kids. I've got to get the oldest to school. I've got to get the middle 2 to Kita. And then I've got to come home and I still have 1 to take care of, you know? It's like, it's crazy. So I think that's been the hardest for me, is just kind of like then getting through daily life every day. Okay, so my husband, he has 4 sisters, and the one that's directly above him in age, she is also married, and she has 3 kids, but she got married when she was like 19 maybe. She had her first kid at 21. And her husband's also American. She's German, he's American. So their family has a lot of parallels to ours, because they're also German and English speaking. But her kids are older. So her oldest is 22 and her youngest is 16. So looking at them, I kind of see the direction that we're going to be moving. And it's really nice, because like she's been able to go back to work. She, the mom, right? Her kids are very independent. They can make their own food. They can walk into town, and walk into town by themselves. Like, she doesn't have to really do anything. She makes dinner for everyone every night still, but like she doesn't have to. Like, if she misses dinner, she just says, "I'm not making dinner tonight," and everyone just like makes it for themselves. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, so watching them, I kind of think, okay, like that's kind of like the way that we're moving. My husband and I we joke about the fact that we will have 4 teenagers all at once, right? Like, when the youngest, she's almost 2 now, she's 1.5. In 10 years, she'll be 11, and then the oldest will be 17. Yeah. And it'll just be like this, you know, like that'll be really weird to have all these teenagers around. So I do worry about that, you know. Yeah. I worry about like how we're gonna like we need to move apartments. We're in a 2-bedroom apartment, so 3 rooms, which has been nice, and it's got a garden, so it's like, for now it's quite a bit of space, but at some point they're all going to want to have their own space, and I'm freaking out about finding a new apartment. Like, where can we live that we have enough space for all of them, you know? How can I go back to work? Because I can't imagine right now, like, even fathoming having a job, because I don't know, like, even once all the kids are finally in Kita, there's always a kid who has a doctor's appointment. There's always a kid who's sick. Yeah. There's always a kid that needs to be picked up early from school because they have a half day or whatever. Yeah. Or the Kita doesn't have enough staff and they need me to go get my kids. Like, there's always something. And so that's an aspect of it I didn't really think about when I went in for having 4 kids. I was like, and I look at people that only have 1 and they're like, oh, I'm so tired. And I'm like, okay, like, all right, like, yeah, you're more tired than you were before. But I mean, I don't mean to discredit people with only 1 kid, because that's also really hard too. And I do say sometimes, like, it's easier to have more than 1, just because they play with each other and they will sometimes really entertain each other for hours. And I can just go and like cook them food, and like I have to take care of the meal times and whatever, but like I don't have to sit there and play Barbies with them, because I'm awful at like these fantasy games that they and I think when you only have 1 kid, it's so different, because they can't do that. They rely on their parents for entertainment. And so, yeah, so I can see that it would really be difficult to just have 1. But sometimes I do wish that I'd stuck to only having 1, and I could really focus my attention on her. Because I just feel like all of my kids, I have to split my attention 4 ways, and they all want my full attention, you know, so they're all not getting what they want. But then again, that's probably good too, because then they learn that they don't always get full attention. They learn that they have to share with their siblings. So I think it's good in the end, but I do feel this guilt of like, they're not getting enough from me, or not as much as I would like to give them. I mean, you get a lot of like looks on the street, and people make comments. They're like, are those all yours? They think like I'm a Tagesmutter or something, like carrying all these kids around. They're like, are they all, you know, or they'll ask about the middle 2, are they twins, you know? And I'm like, no, they're all mine, all separate pregnancies. Yeah, I guess just you have to prepare for the fact that, like, since society is used to having families with 1 or 2 kids, they put a lot of pressure on the parents and be like, okay, your kid has this thing at school, you're going to be there, right? And I'm like, I can't. My husband's at work. I've got 3 other children to mind. And how am I supposed to come to the school and like sell cake for this event when I've got 3 other kids to mind? I can't, like, or my husband has to take off work and come and do it, you know? So they just have this assumption that you'll be able to come and help with different things because you only have 1 kid and like that kid is your focus. And I'm like, no, I can't come to this event, or I need to like, have a babysitter. I guess that's the big thing. You really, like, especially when they're really young, like you need to have a good network of somebody that can come and help when you really, really need it. And there's 2 kids with 2 doctor's appointments in 2 different parts of the city, and it's only you. And you're like, oh, I have to dress all of them up and take them all to this 1 appointment, and then take them all to the 2nd appointment, and then take them all home, you know? Yeah. Especially when you're relying on public transportation. Because like getting all 4 of them on and off a bus by myself is really like not easy, especially if the bus is crowded, you know. So there's just so many like anxiety like inducing things where like when I think if I only had 1 or if I only had 2, like this would somewhat be manageable. Like, but there's just, it's hard. It's not easy when you have that many. I guess another thing that would be helpful is if I had spread them out just a bit more. If I had said, okay, like maybe 3 years in between each kid, because I do notice with my oldest, she's super helpful. She's 7 now. And like, she's really good about like, I need a diaper, and she'll go grab me a diaper, and then I don't have to get up and go get that diaper and leave a screaming baby. I can just like have a diaper brought to me and then put it on. Sometimes she wants to put the diaper on the baby herself. Sometimes, you know, and I try not to abuse my power there. Like, I don't want her to feel like she's the mom, but she likes to help. And so if she asks to help, I'll let her help. And so it's really nice to have an older, like the siblings be a little bit older, a little bit more independent, and then they can like, you know, do their own thing. So I think that's one thing that I might change if I could go back. I would say, let's space these kids out a little bit, because the 3 younger ones were all born less than 2 years apart from each other. So I think that makes a huge difference. I think having a really tight age gap is really hard. I think though for the kids it's great. I think they love it. They love having everyone close enough in age. I've heard also from families that have larger age gaps that it kind of is terrible because each kid has such different interests that you can't do a big family thing together because everyone wants to do something different. Whereas my kids aren't like that. They all kind of have similar, not the same, but similar interests. And if we do like a thing together, they're all happy to go do that thing together. That we can all go to the playground together. Everyone finds something that they want to do. But for the parents, it's definitely a lot harder because like just physically, like you're always just lifting up a kid. I do a lot of baby wearing. That's really helped. I don't think I could have survived without learning how to wrap on my back. So that's been good. And then you just need, transport, like a way to transport kids. So if you can get like a good like bike trailer that has 2 seats or like a buggy board on your stroller, or we don't have a double stroller, but we could probably really use one. I just can't find one that I'm happy with, but that would be also really good to have. Yeah.
So lots of preparation and mental
a cargo
strength.
bike, that would be the
one
dream.
that was the trailer.
Yeah, the one in the front, and then you can get like a rain cover.
And then you get like 4 kids, 2 by sides.
We've rented one before and they love it. They think it's so much fun. So that would be really helpful right now actually, because they're at this age where they're old enough, so like the oldest one can actually ride her own bike really, but she still likes riding in the cargo bike, and the other 3 love it too. So that would be really good to have.